Hey guys, it's Hannah, and today we're going to be talking all about BookTube. So a little while ago I went on Twitter and I asked you all to ask me some questions that you had about BookTube, just the community in general, my experiences here, any pros or cons, just anything about BookTube at all, and I just wanted to do like a little Q&A about it because I get a lot of questions every single day of people asking me about different things about BookTube, questions they have about joining the community, just general questions they may have about the community, and a lot of stuff about my experiences. And because I've never really been able to answer that in a video, I thought that doing a Q&A about it would be a good way to go about talking about all of my experiences here and just sharing some of the information that I've accumulated over these past 2 years with you guys. There are also just some BookTube related things that I've been wanting to discuss for a while, and a lot of you asked questions that are pertaining to those too. So I just kind of wanted to have a little discussion about our community here and just talk about it for a bit. So I hope this is enjoyable or at least a little bit helpful to some of you. So many of you left amazing questions and there are a lot of them, so I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, but I'm going to try and get through as many as I can, and there are some that are like duplicate questions, so I'm just gonna lump all of those together. But without any further ado, let's get into talking about BookTube. What are some unexpected things you've gotten from BookTube, both good and bad? I think one of the most unexpected things I've gotten out of BookTube have been the friends that I've made. It's not that joining this community I thought I wouldn't meet anyone necessarily or make any friends at all. I just never thought that I would meet so many incredible people that I get to call my closest friends now. It's just so wonderful to have met so many people who love what I love and we share the same interests. We're doing the exact same thing and we have so much in common, and it's so nice to be able to relate to people on that level. And all of these people that I now get to call my friends have been so incredibly supportive of me over my time here, and it's just the greatest feeling, and I'm so happy that I've been able to get that out of this. Another unexpected thing I think has definitely also been the support of the community in general and like people who watch my videos, all of you, because I did not expect that at all. Genuinely, like I feel like I say this a lot and I feel like sometimes people don't actually believe it when people say this, but genuinely, when I started my BookTube channel, I had zero expectations of anything going anywhere. Like, I made these videos because I really just felt like talking about the books that I was reading, and I was pretty lonely, and that was about it. And I didn't care if like 2 people watched my videos, that was fine. I just wanted to be able to rant about books I loved and books that I didn't like and anything else just pertaining to books. And so when people started to like show up, when people started to watch my videos and interact with me on this large of a scale, which is just still unbelievable to me, it has been the most amazing thing and the most life-changing thing. Like, the amount of support that I receive daily is unbelievable, and it truly like gets me through every day. And it's just, I don't have the words to describe how grateful I am and how unexpected that was for me, because I thought I was just gonna be sitting here talking to my camera all by myself. And while that's technically true, it's not, because all of you are here with me too, and it's such a wonderful, wonderful feeling to know that. So thank you all. I know I'm getting sappy right from the beginning, but like, what else can we expect from me? How did you feel when you started BookTube? Was it hard to keep going in the beginning? Actually, for me personally, I feel like the beginning was the easiest for me to get through in BookTube, which I know is kind of weird. Like, that's different from a lot of people's experiences when it comes to BookTube. I feel like a lot of people tend to struggle more at the beginning when you're just trying to build up your audience and you're trying to come up with new content and everything like that. But for me personally, I was just so passionate when I first started making videos. Like, I didn't want to do anything except read and film videos. Like, that was all I did for my first 2 years of college. I did not do anything else. All I wanted to do was just make videos and talk about them nonstop. And that's what I did, and it was the best time of my life. I didn't care if nobody was watching my videos. I didn't care how many views a video got. I did not care about a thing. I only cared about the fact that I was able to sit down in front of a camera every week and just talk about the books that I'd read. For me personally, it was actually when my channel started to get a bit bigger, when I got to, I think, about 10,000 subscribers. That was when I started to feel like pressure, and when I started to feel less creative. I got in a bit of like a creative slump and things were just like not as great. I took a bit of like a break. It was like a 2-week break. It wasn't really a break, but that's when things started to get more difficult for me. I think for me personally, it was in part because my channel grew a lot faster and I was not expecting to suddenly have that many people there. Like, I was expecting to stay very, very small for a very long time, and that didn't happen. And suddenly there were a lot more people than I was expecting, and there were a lot more people to talk to and interact with, and you realize that you actually have some influence, and it's a very weird thing to grapple with when you go from having just a few people there to thousands of people there. And that's hard to adjust to. So for me personally, that was the most difficult thing about getting started on BookTube, but that was a bit after I'd started. I feel like I'm over-explaining this question at this point. My point is that it's gonna be different for everyone, I think, but for me personally, it was a bit into my BookTube journey that it started to get a little bit more difficult for me. If you could give your past self advice on starting a BookTube channel, what would you say to her? Figure out how camera angles work, figure out what good lighting is, and stop whispering. If you go back and watch any of my earlier videos, you will notice that I'm basically like whispering in those videos, and that's because I was in my room and my sister was in her room across the hall, and I didn't want her to hear me filming because I was like really embarrassed and like shy at the beginning, and I just didn't want anyone to hear me filming. So I was basically like whispering at the camera, and yeah, it's really, really bad, and they're so cringy. I can't even stand watching them anymore. My friends and I joke about it, and they call them my ASMR videos because like actually they sound like ASMR and it's terrible and I hate it. But yeah, you know, everyone makes mistakes. At the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing, but clearly I've improved. I like to think that I've improved, and hopefully I will only improve from here. But yeah, they're horrible and I can't stand watching them. Who are some of your favorite booktubers, and what's your favorite thing about being a booktuber? So I love basically everyone in this community. Like there are countless people that I could name, all of the bigger booktubers that you are probably subscribed to, all of my wonderful friends. There are just so many incredibly lovely people. But I do want to give a shout out to just a few smaller booktubers that I really love. Kav, who is the one who actually asked this question, I love their channel. They are fantastic. They make amazing discussion videos and I really love watching them, and they are a teen booktuber, so I really enjoy getting their perspective. I also love Roxy from the Novel Sanctuary, who's one of my great friends. She is wonderful and she also makes incredible videos. And I recently subscribed to Ashley from Ashley Outpaged, who also makes wonderful videos. Her videos are just like such high quality and they look so aesthetically pleasing. I don't understand what she does with her camera, but I really need some advice. And another person I also recently subscribed to was Don't Stop Readin'. I also love their videos and I've been watching them a lot recently too. So I'll definitely leave all of these people linked in the description box, and you should definitely go and check them out and subscribe if you like them. Is it hard to be a person of ethnic descent on BookTube? This is a really interesting question and something I've actually been thinking about a lot lately. I recently did some like research, not like real research, I just looked up a couple of things, but basically I was looking at all of the English speaking booktubers. So booktubers from the UK, the US, Australia, and Canada. And I was looking at all of them, all of the ones who have 100,000 subscribers or over. And I think if I got the numbers right, there are a total of 14 or 15 of them. And out of those 15, only 2 are people of color, one of them being me. And that's just a very weird thing to think about. I'm definitely not gonna sit here and pretend like being a booktuber of color has been the most challenging thing for me here on BookTube, because it has not. I'm aware of my privilege. I know that I am lighter skinned. I know that in certain situations I could be white passing, and those are privileges that I have, and I'm very, very much conscious and aware of that. But I have noticed that my experience here has been a bit different, specifically compared to white booktubers. I get a lot of comments about people asking me about my ethnicity, about my race, about my origins, about where I'm really from, which is something apparently people still ask, and it boggles my mind. If you didn't know, I'm Persian or Iranian American, so basically I was born in the US, but I'm ethnically just Persian or Iranian, whatever you want to call it. And I get a lot of people assuming things about me based on my ethnicity. I get a lot of people asking me about my ethnicity, and I get hate comments that are directed at me because of my ethnicity. And those are things that I deal with that other white booktubers don't have to deal with. And like I said, it's not like the most challenging thing on BookTube for me, but it is something that is different, and it's something that is tough at times. It's always just kind of isolating to know that you are one of only a few people, or the only one of a group of people, and you are representing that group of people. Like, that is just kind of difficult to deal with, because I only represent me. Like, I can't speak for other people, and I'm just me, so it puts a lot of pressure on you sometimes. And I feel like I've felt that the more that my channel has grown, And that's not to say that it's not a good thing. Like, I genuinely love the fact that I get people who send me the most incredible messages saying things like they're so happy to see that I'm a person of color and I am a booktuber and they feel represented by seeing me there. Like, I've gotten several comments and messages like that, and those have just been the most rewarding thing in the entire world for me, because that makes me so happy, because I wish I could have had that in a person when I was growing up in the things that I love to watch and the things that I love to do. So knowing that I could be that for someone is the greatest feeling in the world. But also, like I said, I am a single person and I don't speak for other people, especially for an entire ethnicity or race or gender or anything. I am just me. I don't ever want to. I shouldn't. Other people should have their own voices and should be able to speak for themselves. And that's why I'm such an advocate of supporting booktubers of color and why that's such an important thing for me. But yeah, like I said, it definitely is a challenge. It has been a challenge in some ways, but I'm also very much aware of the fact that it has been easier for me than it might be for other people. So it's a very, very difficult thing, and it's something that I really hope changes soon. Do you think there are little cliques on BookTube? This is actually something I've really been wanting to talk about, because I feel like this is a presumption that a lot of people have about booktubers, and I understand where it's coming from, but I think that it's a little bit misguided. The way I see it in life, if you think about like high school, middle school, college, anything, when you see like groups of friends, there are always like people who are groups of friends with each other because they're closer to each other, because their personalities mesh well together, or they just click and they just work well together, so they tend to stick together. And that is something that exists like everywhere, in any workplace, in any school environment, in any social environment. That always exists. And I feel like for some reason with BookTube, people tend to project that idea in a different way and kind of just make it like a cliquey thing, instead of like these people are just more friends with each other than they are with these other people because they tend to get along better, or they've known each other for several years. And even with all of that being said, I feel like, specifically as someone who has been on two very different sides of this, someone who was not involved in this community at all and literally had no friends when she first started making booktube videos and never thought she would talk to any of the most popular booktubers or anything like that, to now being very close friends with almost every single one of them. Like, I can call all of them my close friends, and I'm so grateful for that. Like, being on both sides of that, I feel like gives me a pretty unique perspective. Before I met anyone from BookTube, I was super, super anxious about meeting them, because I thought that they wouldn't want to talk to me because I'd be an outsider and they're all friends with each other anyway, and no one would want me to be there, and I'm just going to be awkward and uncomfortable and nobody's going to like me, which is just like partially my anxiety when it comes to meeting new people and like meeting new friends. But it was also just because I thought that like it just wasn't gonna work out and I was just gonna be an outsider, because I was kind of playing into that clique mentality. But truly, I am not kidding when I tell you that booktubers, at least the booktubers that I have met, have all been the most warm and welcoming people I've ever met in my entire life. Like, nobody at any point in my entire experience here on BookTube has ever made me feel excluded from being a part of their group, from talking to them or anything. Every single one of the most popular booktubers, all the ones that'll come to your mind, are so kind and so warm and so welcoming. And they truly made me feel like a friend the first time I ever met them. And now, less than a year later, they are all truly my very good friends. And that's just an amazing thing. So it kind of baffles me whenever people think that like BookTube is very cliquey. And I think when people say that it's cliquey, they think that there are people who are excluding other people, and that truly is not happening. I genuinely think the reason that certain people just stick together more is because they're just closer friends, and that's about it. At least in my experience, no one in BookTube has ever been rude or tried to exclude anyone at all. They've all been extremely inclusive and very, very kind. So I think that's where that clique like thought comes from and that whole conversation comes from. But I think, like I said, it's just a bit misguided and it needs to be reframed a bit. Are there ever times you've considered quitting BookTube, and if so, why? I've never fully considered quitting BookTube, like that's not something I've ever wanted to do, but I have definitely considered taking like an extended break. Last year, last fall specifically, I was going through a very, very rough time. I had just transferred to my university. I was just starting out at a new school, and there were a lot of other changes, losses, just like difficult things that all happened at once, and it was very, very hard to deal with for me. And I was just going through a lot emotionally and personally as well. And so I was just not having it. It was just a really, really rough time. And because of that, I really just wanted to take a break from BookTube, and I kind of did. I mean, like, I uploaded way less frequently. It was just very sporadic, and I didn't like that either. I wanted to just like not make videos for a solid like 3 months or something like that, but I never could because I just love making videos too much to ever quit. In retrospect, I honestly probably should have taken at least like a few week break or something like that. It definitely, I think, would have been good for my health, but I didn't want to because I just love doing this too much. And I definitely think that for me personally, every time I have any of those, like, I don't feel like making videos anymore, I should just like quit or anything like that, it's always because it's from some sort of external thing or external force that is making me feel that way. It's never been anything from the BookTube community itself that has made me want to just stop making videos. That being said, I don't plan to ever stop making videos. I genuinely want to do this for as long as I possibly can. Favorite video you have ever made and cons of receiving ARCs or sponsored books. My favorite video I've ever made is definitely my 20 things I've learned from Harry Potter in 20 years. I love that video so much. I literally go back and rewatch it sometimes just because I love it so much. Yes, I do watch my own videos sometimes, sue me. But no, I seriously love that video so much. It was so much fun for me to put together, and I really, really enjoyed myself, and it makes me emotional still every single time I watch it. To answer the second question, any cons of receiving ARCs or sponsored reviews? For ARCs specifically, I have to say that my biggest con when it comes to ARCs is that it's great to get a book way in advance, like months in advance, especially if you're highly anticipating it, and then you get to read it super early, so that's amazing. But then the problem is that you've read the book super early and then you can't talk to anyone about it because no one else has read the book yet. And I started my channel because I wanted to talk to people about the books I've read, and I can't do that when I've read a book several months in advance and nobody else has read the book yet. So it kind of just leaves you dangling, and then by the time that everyone else has read the book, I've already worked through all of my emotions in this book, and now I don't really feel like talking about it as much. So yeah, that's my biggest con when it comes to ARCs. And then in terms of sponsored reviews or sponsored videos, I feel like my biggest con is definitely when you don't like the book and then you can't really promote it or support it in the way that you wanted to. Thankfully, I've never been in the situation where I've had a sponsored book review and I've like hated the book, so that's thankfully never happened to me and I haven't had to deal with that yet. But I have had books where I just thought they were like okay, they weren't amazing, but I didn't dislike them necessarily either, and I just like don't really feel like gushing about the book, and that's like disappointing because when you're doing a sponsored video, you're being paid to promote that book, and if I didn't like the book, then I'm not going to be as enthusiastic about it, so that's just disappointing. But yeah, apart from just like reading a book that you didn't absolutely love, I feel like that's just my biggest con of sponsored videos. How and why did you start BookTube? When did you start receiving free books? Did you reach out to publishers or did they contact you? So I started my BookTube channel in late July of 2015. And I started making videos because I was about to start my first semester at college and all of my friends had moved away and I was basically alone and I didn't really have anyone to talk to. And I had just started reading a lot more the way that I used to when I was younger after going on like a couple of years of not reading much at all. And I just had so many books that I wanted to talk about, and I'd found BookTube the year before. So that summer I just sat down and I decided to film a video, and I did, and I always say it is the greatest decision I have ever made. As for when I started receiving books, I think it was like maybe when I was at 500 or 1,000 subscribers. I don't know, I genuinely don't remember, but an author reached out to me and asked if I would review her book, and so I did, and that was really, really exciting for me. And then after that, it just kind of grew from there. Mostly I got authors contacting me, asking me if I wanted to review their books, and if they sounded interesting to me, I would take them. If not, I wouldn't. And then after that, I don't remember like numbers wise where I was at, but eventually I got onto some publishers' mailing lists, and then I started working with some other companies and stuff, and they just started sending me things. And then I think it was when I was at 20,000 subscribers, I think that I first got my first sponsored video. So like the first time I was ever paid for a video. Everything else was just people sending me stuff for free. But it was at, I think, 20,000, around there, when I got my first sponsored video. And that was when like a publisher reached out to me. In terms of me reaching out to publishers or them reaching out to me, the only time I've ever reached out to a publisher has been when I've requested an arc for a specific book, which I've only done, I think, like 3 times maybe. And yeah, so I don't request many arcs. And then apart from that, when it comes to sponsored videos or publishers sending me things, 99% of the time, like 99.999% of the time, they're the ones who reach out to me. For sponsored videos, 100% of the time, I've never reached out to a publisher to do a sponsored video or a company for a sponsored video. Like I said, the only thing I've ever reached out to a publisher for is an arc of a book that I really wanted. But apart from that, yeah, it's just them reaching out to me. And I think that's mostly through them just finding you, through your content, through your social media channels and stuff like that. So it's definitely something that comes at different times for different people. I know people who've gotten sponsored videos at like 1,000 subscribers, and people who like me got it at 20,000, people who've gotten it at 50,000. Like it's very, very different. And I honestly don't exactly know how it works. Some publishers do have like minimum subscriber or like follower counts that you have to have in order to be on their mailing lists and stuff like that, but others don't really have one. It's kind of anything. I honestly don't know how they work. But yeah, it's a very different experience for each person. Is there anything you wish you could change or stop in the BookTube community? There are a number of things that I would like to change or stop, but I think one of the main things, at least recently, that I've been thinking about a lot is this whole perception that some people have that booktubers lie in their sponsored reviews. The thing about this is I think that people just don't really understand the way sponsored reviews work. And I feel like a lot of people also mix up when people are sent a book for a sponsored video or when people are just sent a book from a publisher. Those are two completely different things. Like there are times where I will be sent a book for a sponsored video. Like a publisher will send me a book because I'm going to be making a video about that book, which I am getting paid for. And then there are other times when a publisher will send me a book that is just a book that they have sent me. I have no obligation to do anything with that necessarily. I do plan to make an Instagram post about it or include it in a video, but I am not being paid to have this book in a video or in a post or anything like that. Those books are usually sent to me unsolicited. There's no plan. I don't even really know that I'm getting them, and they're just sent to me. And I feel like a lot of people think that those books are also sponsored books, and they are not sponsored books at all. And the other thing with sponsored content, at least for me personally, like I'm only going to be talking about my experiences. If I am doing a sponsored review or including a book in a sponsored video, first of all, I'm only going to do that video if I'm interested in the book in the first place. Like if someone asks to send me a mystery thriller romance novel, which is not something that I really tend to read, for a sponsored video, I'm probably going to deny that sponsorship. If someone is trying to send me a book from a series that I've already started reading and I don't like that series, I'm not going to accept that sponsored review because I'm not going to promote something I don't like. So first of all, I feel like a lot of people assume that all booktubers accept every single sponsored opportunity they get, and while I can't technically speak for everybody else, I can speak for myself and say I have turned down a number of sponsorships because I don't like those books and I don't want to promote them. And then second, when I do a sponsored review, I have to sign a contract. And within that contract, there's always some sort of clause or something that says that you are giving your own honest opinions. And then apart from that, sometimes you have to send like the video to the publisher ahead of time so that they can just check it before it goes up. But what they're checking it for usually is that you've included like a proper description of the book and you haven't like made any mistakes about what the book is actually about, you haven't given away any spoilers, and that you've gotten like the publication date and all that stuff correct, and that you've also met like the FTC guidelines, and that's about it. Like I am very much free to say whatever I want about these books, about my opinions on these books, and everything else is just like synopsis of the book. And I feel like a lot of this comes from the idea that booktubers want to keep their relationships with publishers, and while that is true, of course I do want to keep my relationships with these publishers, like I said, I will turn something down if I don't like that book to begin with, and I will tell the publisher that, and then they won't send me more things about that book. They'll send me things about other books. They do ask you what types of books you like to read, what types of books you would like to receive, what types of books you'd like to do sponsored videos about. So it is very tailored, and because of that, and because I feel like a lot of people don't really know how much is actually going on behind the scenes of that. I feel like people just assume that we lie every single time we are doing a sponsored video, which is completely untrue. Also, along with all of this, I just don't understand the whole mentality around like having a sponsorship and then lying. Like, if you don't trust me to begin with, why are you watching my content? If you trust my unsponsored videos, why do you not trust my sponsored videos? I will not lie to you either way, and if you don't believe that, I don't understand why you're here. Like, that's something that I truly don't get. Like, some of my favorite YouTubers who do sponsored videos, I don't distrust their sponsored videos because I know that I trust them to begin with, and if they're making a sponsored video with some random company that honestly has nothing to do with their YouTube channel, even then, if I truly trust that person, I don't care, and I'm still going to take their opinion on it. Like, that's the thing that doesn't make sense to me. Either you trust the person or you don't trust the person. And it really just comes down to that, whether or not they're making a sponsored video. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on that. I wish, I guess, I could just change people's minds on this, but that takes a lot of hard work. So hopefully at least this helped you a little bit if you don't know that much about sponsored videos and BookTube. Maybe this cleared some things up. I don't know how complicated all of what I said was. I feel like it didn't make that much sense, but hopefully it was a little bit clear. But I think that's where I'm going to stop this Q&A for today. Thank you all so much for sending me so many amazing questions. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm sorry I couldn't get to all of the questions, but I tried to answer the ones that were most frequently asked and ones that were kind of different from ones I've answered before. But if you have any other questions about BookTube, or if you'd like to see another video like this that's maybe more specific to a specific topic about BookTube, I'd be happy to do another Q&A that's just more specific to something about BookTube. And anything else you guys would like to see, please let me know any of that in the comments down below. If you'd like to follow me on any of my social media, if you have any more questions you want to ask me over there, all my links are in the description as always. But thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!